Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV, the joy and the pain, or should we just call it the joy? Right then, we're talking January transfer window and the latest goings on at Walsall. So we've got Gabriel Sutton, the knowledge of the EFL, is back with us. Good to have you with us, mate.
Yeah, it's great to be on. Do you know what? I don't think we've done many of these this season, have we, Simon? I've normally been coming on when you've been average, so it's nice to come on to talk about a good Walsall team, and I'm sure you're certainly enjoying that this season.
Well, it's we've endured plenty of pain in the last 5 years, and a bit of a false dawn occasionally, but it really
5 years or 30.
Or 30, yeah, well, yeah, I suppose you're right, yeah. But things are definitely looking up. I think it's not just a team that's clicked. It's just so much deeper than that. It's like everything at the club seems so together and so aligned, and the fruits of that. Plain to see. So many managers getting fired. There's just no patience in football, is there?
No, I mean, I tend to believe in giving managers a real opportunity to show what they can do, because there would have been times last season when some Walsall fans, and I'm not going to name any names, Simon, would probably have been questioning Matt Sadler. So I think it shows that sometimes there's a value to giving managers the benefit of the doubt, and it seems like that patience is paying off at the best good.
Yeah, I think we were questioning Matt Sadler, and I think rightfully so. Sort of like November 23, we'd been on a poor run of form. Ben Boycott came over, and I think he put his arm around everybody and checked in with everybody, and I think found out then that the players were 100% behind him. And I think that sort of galvanised Walsall, and from there we've sort of not looked back really. We did have a wobble. I think we weren't quite ready to go up last season for whatever reason. So the playoff push at the end seemed to just falter a little bit. But this season, from early doors, we've looked very good. Nathan Lowe is one that people. I've seen a few videos put out saying Nathan Lowe is single-handedly carrying Walsall to League One, and it's like, obviously Nathan Lowe has got lots of plaudits, and rightfully so, because he's been very good. But as you know, there's a lot more to Walsall than Nathan Lowe, and the victory over MK Dons sort of proved that.
Well, I would actually. If I can
Right.
come in on that, Simon, I would actually say also the victory over Tranmere proved it to some extent. And this is like Nathan Lowe, don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal talent, and he's been an absolute joy to watch in this season. And I think he's got all the ingredients to go to do whatever he wants with his career, basically. But I would actually say that it's not, when you beat Tranmere Rovers 5-1, yes, it was against an awful Tranmere team. I thought Nathan Lowe, if we're going by the incredibly high standards he set this season, I wouldn't say he was any higher than, say, a 7 out of 10 on an individual performance. I thought, whereas I thought the team performance against Tranmere Rovers was outstanding. This wasn't some individual that was kind of carrying through the whole way. If anything, I thought he was quite quiet. There weren't that many opportunities for him to run through on goal. A lot of it was sort of play out wide and situations like that. So listen, Nathan Lowe's been outstanding, but I think it's the wing backs that have been brilliant for Walsall this season, like Connor Barrett and Liam Gordon. The midfield three between them do a brilliant job. You're right about Ryan Sirk being everywhere. He certainly is, isn't he? So look, I think it's a brilliant team. Nathan Lowe is certainly the cherry on top, but I'm sure you'll get by without him, because it's been a great collective achievement. What has been achieved so far.
The way Matt Sadler set things up with a very fit, athletic team that's working for each other, and we're creating lots of chances because of that. So then a player of Nathan Lowe's ability is then in a perfect position to hoover up those chances and put the ball in the net. And there's lots of players that want to come to Walsall. I've got a comment from Dan Azza, and he's sort of worried that we haven't got a replacement yet for Nathan Lowe. And but there's so many people that want to. There's so many clubs that want to send players to Walsall at the moment. Number one, they're going to get a promotion on their CV almost certainly. So that's a big plus. Performing in a winning team again is another big plus. And then the rise of Nathan Lowe being at Walsall has just shown that Walsall have developed him. Playing alongside Jamil Matt has transformed him as a player. So who wouldn't want to send a player to Walsall on that basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really attractive place for clubs higher up the pyramid to send players, and and that hasn't always been the case in recent years. So I think that's a really exciting thing for Walsall. I'm actually wondering if you're going to Stoke are going to say, okay, we can't give you Nathan Lowe back, but maybe Emre Tezgel, who's another really talented striker there. Is that going to be a possibility? We've talked about Freddie Draper, I think, returning possibly from Lincoln City, maybe permanently. Now they've signed James Collins, so I'm sure there's a couple of irons in the fire.
Well, there's a couple I want to talk about there. Emre Tezgel, over the 8 games over Christmas, so arguably the busiest period of time for a club, he only made 3 cameo appearances, a total of 45 minutes over 8 games over Christmas. Is a very poor return for a player who showed so much promise last season for MK Dons. So I think he's perhaps gone back, and not being a biased at all, I think sending Tezgel to Walsall for the rest of the season would be able to get him back up to the Nathan Lowe level, perhaps. But I was wondering whether Mark Robbins will play Tezgel and Nathan Lowe up front, because they've got a lot of history. They've sort of came through the youth team together and that sort of thing. So they've played a lot of time together in the youth. So backing that up and playing in the first team together would be very good for them. But maybe 6 months or a few months with Walsall would get Tezgel up to speed, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. I think Stoke, I get the impression that there's a sort of discomfort from Stoke's point of view that, on the one hand, they've felt like they've had to recall Nathan Lowe because their own striker, Tom Cannon, has been recalled by Leicester.
Yeah.
And therefore they've had to cover their backs. They maybe don't have a huge amount of money to spend in January. There may be some FFP regulations that mean that limit what they can do. And if they were going to spend, they're probably going to sign the top scorer in League Two. So, so it's understandable, but they also probably feel they would have liked Nathan Lowe to sort of finish his season, close the chapter at Walsall, win a title, win a Player of the Year, really sort of kickstart his career with those, getting over the line with those achievements. Obviously, maybe circumstances have dictated that they've had to recall him, but so it wouldn't surprise me if Stoke said, look, we wouldn't have wanted to take Nathan Lowe. We've kind of had to cover ourselves. We're in a championship relegation battle. We need every good player we can get. But we also recognise that we've inconvenienced you significantly. So, would you like Emre Tezgel as an alternative on loan for the second half of the season?
I think for Stoke, particularly for Mark Robbins coming into the position, Stoke are in a position where they are struggling. They are in a battle. He knew that Tom Cannon was likely to be recalled. I think Niall Ennis as well, perhaps, may be leaving. And got Sam Gallagher as well. He's injured. So they are quite limited. I don't think...
I love, by the way, Simon, I love how Walsall fans are now an expert on Stoke City strikers because of wanting to work out whether or not Nathan Lowe was going to get recalled.
Well, that obviously sort of drew my attention for the obvious reasons. he, as you say, Mark Robbins talked about the financial fair play issues. So it seems like Stoke haven't got any money to be buying strikers. So I think for that reason, I think Tesgel won't be coming out to Walsall. I think he's going to be needed at Stoke, I think. So I think that sort of counts him out, I think. Which is a shame, because I think he would have made a big difference to Walsall and helped us over the line and got him up to speed. But Walsall now, they need to be thinking, and I don't think it's too previous to be saying this, but Walsall need to be thinking about next season and who we're going to be who's going to be playing for Walsall in League One. Jamil Matt, has he got another season in League One? That's a big question. So we're looking for a long-term replacement for Jamil Matt. That's why I think Walsall were looking at bringing Freddie Draper back. It seemed like we were close to a deal, and then it was held off. Whether that was just they wanted to wait until they got a new player in, which they have done now. So maybe that will wake up again. Would be nice to have Freddie Draper back on a permanent deal. I think a loan probably is not what we'd want. I don't think they wanted to loan him anyway. I think, but he'd gone back, hadn't he? Since he's gone back in his progress. He did well for Walsall, and then since going back, he's getting grief from their fans. There's not a lot of fans talking him up. I think the only people talking him up at the moment is the Stoke directors trying to get a bit more money for him, perhaps.
Yeah, possibly. So how many more are we looking at 2 strikers to come in for Walsall, or do you think one would do it?
Well, Ray's Cleary went back, which I feel sorry for Ray's Cleary, really, because he got himself back to fitness, and he had a few games in the sort of Bristol Street Motors Virtue Trophy, and he looked okay, to be honest. It's just the form of other players had just kept him out, and he wasn't even getting on the bench because Danny Johnson, of course, was taking the place on the bench for him, and then with Josh Gordon returning to fitness, he was even further away from the first team. But then with Nathan Lowe going, arguably you'd think, well, maybe he'd have a chance of getting back in. But there's so much around there at the minute. Obviously, Albert Adoma has done very well. He did well on Saturday. Many had him as man of the match on Saturday.
How important do you think is players like Albert Adoma with that bit of higher league pedigree? Because this is somebody who I think started his career in the sort of mid-noughties. He sustained a very good career in the top 2 divisions of English football. I'm pretty sure he's featured in the Premier League as well in his career. So this is clearly a very accomplished player across English football. How much value do you think he's brought to the squad alongside maybe some of those younger talents we've spoken about?
I think early doors at the start of the season, his experience helped us over the line in several games. He was coming on later on and just sort of calming everybody down and relaxing everybody, doing a few tricks on the wing, sort of wasting a bit of time sort of thing to help us over the line. And at the start of the season, we needed that. Now when he comes on now, it's a different kind of environment. But the nous that he's got, like for example the 4th goal on Saturday, it was a clear foul on Jamie Jellis, which would have been perhaps maybe a sending off, but more likely a free kick from about 30 yards out. But he just had the wherewithal just to sort of dink the ball into the net as their keeper was out of position, and obviously the goal stood. So that's speed of thought. You can't train that, can you? That's
No.
Comes with experience and comes with quality.
Yeah. So how close do you think, in terms of this squad, do you know how many roughly are under contract? Are we looking at a lot of work for the club to get these players under contract for League One? I have got
brilliant. we've got a lot out of contract at the end of the season.
Right. Okay.
Sam Hornby, he's been the reserve keeper. He's out of
Okay.
contract at the end of the season. So that's one. I'm not sure what happened with that.
Right.
Oshie McInty, he's out of contract. He's a player we definitely need to tie down, I think.
Yeah, I liked him against Tranmere. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so versatile as well. People have commented on the channel. I think the person commenting might be his sister, I think. But I mean, saying he can play anywhere. And I think that's probably true.
If you're stepping up, you need players who've got that mindset as well, not just the versatility itself, but the willingness to embrace new challenges and to be able to battle. So yeah, so that's a big one to tie down.
Donovan Daniels is out of contract. So I'm not sure about that one, really. Going into League One, and the age, perhaps. Donovan Daniels is great.
One thing I would say, though, Simon, is when I'm going a bit off the game against Tranmere, because that was the one where I saw you for 90 minutes. Although it was against an awful Tranmere side, I thought that there were moments where Tranmere put the ball into the box and there was a little bit of uncertainty, because you look at the back line, you've got... who was it? So it was Harry Williams, obviously a really talented defender, brilliant against MK Dons at the weekend, but he's very young. David Hagby is very young. Taylor Allen isn't really, he's kind of come into that role, but it hasn't, not like he's played there for a long time. So
a lot of experience there,
Yeah, so I'm wondering whether you are going to look at an experienced defender if you were to get promoted, because I would worry a little bit about, given the strength of the attacks that you would be coming up against in League One, whether the likes of Akagbo and Williams would be able to hold the fort on their own, or whether they'd need a little bit of higher level nous in that area. Not against either of them as talents, because I know they can go a long way, but just that little bit of experience for the sort of higher level and the bigger challenges.
Yeah, so that's an interesting with that. I think Priestley Farquharson, I think he's one that'll be released. I think fitness-wise, really, on when he's fit, he's absolutely superb, top-quality talent, and would be more than comfortable in League One. But he's just not played enough games, and repeated injuries are a problem. Liam Gordon, he'd be a good one to tie down for League One, I think.
So that's two that you really need to tie down.
Ryan Stirk is another one.
3. Yeah.
Jack Earing, again, I think injuries are probably going to curtail his progress. Great talent again, but it's just fitness is the problem.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. An interesting one, Ronan Mayer.
Ronan Mayer. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
He's potentially going to go back out to Tamworth, I would think, later this month to get some more game time, but then he's out of contract.
Well, Simon, I look at the sort of the way your midfield sets up, where you've got it feels like all three of your midfielders cover one another really well. Where if Ryan Stirk goes and presses, Oisin McInty will tuck in and support defensively. They all seem to cover each other's backs. Whereas Ronan Mayer, the impression that I get, and I've not seen him live so much because he hasn't really played as much for you as he would have liked, but he seems more like a natural 10 than somebody who could maybe play more like an 8. So maybe you'll disagree with that from if you've seen a bit more of him, but that's what I'm wondering, whether he's going to fit into the sort of the blueprint that Matt Sadler wants.
I think Matt Sadler doesn't see him fitting in that right now, but I think if we're moving into League One, I think that would perhaps suit Ronan Mayer better than League Two, because he's got good speed of thought and great technical ability. So I'd like him to get.
He's going to have to do more defensive work, even more defensive work than is already required in the system.
Yeah, he's not bad defensively. But obviously, sort of getting on the ball and creating is sort of a benefit. It's an interesting one to see what happens with that. It's one that we don't really know.
So far, we've got Oisin McInty, just to recap, Oisin McInty, Ryan Stirk and Liam Gordon, who are the three where it's like you've got to tie them down.
Albert Adoma, I don't think he's planning to play past this season.
Oh, really? Okay. Right. So it'd be a big one to replace then, that sort of experience, I suppose.
if he carried on for next season, that would be fantastic. But I don't think he'd be looking to go back
Do
to
you
League
think
One.
there's a possibility that if you won the league and, Matt Sadler said to him, can you just give us one more year? He'd maybe...
That's possible. That's possible, yeah.
It may be enough
Danny
to play
Johnson.
coach. So go on.
Yeah. Player coach, potentially, yeah. Danny Johnson, I think he's one of the higher wage earners, and I think he's not going to be played more in League One than he's been played in League Two. So I think
Sadler, if Sadler doesn't fancy him in League Two, he's not going to pick him in League One, is he? So
no, and I think it's a shame. Danny Johnson is a natural finisher, and he's proved that in some of the EFL Trophy games.
Yeah,
but he's lacked a bit of sharpness in those, which is natural for the amount of game time he's missed.
Sure,
but that's going to be a tough one. I think he's
okay.
Jamil Matt again. Has he got another year?
I would say I don't think he'd be a regular starter in League One, but I think he could be valuable as a squad option. But I would, okay. So
we need to be thinking of a long-term replacement for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Next one, Douglas James Taylor. He's was at Drogheda on loan last season. Did really well. 15 goals in 15 games. Scored in the FA Ireland final. And he's gone back to Drogheda again. I was surprised. I thought he was going to come back to the squad. So I'm not sure. I think he might transfer at the end of the season and stay with Drogheda, I think.
Yeah, do you know what, Simon? I feel like it with James Taylor, a bit like, is it Doug? It's Douglas James Taylor, and a bit like with Ronan Mayer, where they get loaned out so many times that you feel like, does the manager really want them?
Yeah,
I feel like up to a certain point, you can loan them out and loan that, but at a certain point, you've got to say, it's sink or swim. It's either you want them or you don't. And I feel like it's getting to that crunch point with Taylor.
Yeah, I think with Ronan Mayer and with Douglas James Taylor, I guess. And the thing is, I think this is another comment that Mark Robbins made. I think sometimes you can forget about the young talent, and when they're out on loan all the time, and not fully appreciate them. And it's only when they go out and do something special like Nathan Lowe did that people realise, hang on, he's one of ours. Why is he not here?
Sure.
And because of how well Douglas James Taylor did for Drogheda, I'm surprised he hasn't come back in because of that. But at the time, we'd sort of got lots of options. If we hadn't bought anybody else in now, then I would think Douglas James Taylor coming back would make perfect sense. Some people don't rate him, but I thought he was good before, and then he's gone to Drogheda and done really good. So we'll see. And the final one, Harry Williams.
Oh well, you've got to tie him.
Got a lot of attention. He's another one we need to sign up.
So really, Simon, we can debate about the others, but the big four are Lynn Gordon, Oisin McKenty, Ryan Stirk, and Harry Williams. So those are the ones where it's like you've got to tie them down. So hopefully that can be something that you do between now and the end of the season to take away some of the ambiguity going into the summer. If you can do some of those deals between now and then, that takes away some of the workload required for the summer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it'd be nice to tie some of those down at this stage. There's some offers coming for Jamie Jellis, but he's got another year on his contract. But it's strange when Wickham come calling, they've put a couple of offers in for Jamie Jellis. But Wickham are on a bigger team than Walsall. I know they're higher up the pyramid now, slightly, but I mean they're quite a small club, Wickham, aren't they?
Well, I suppose it's that they've got a Kazakhstani billionaire owner, which makes a little bit of a difference, doesn't it, in terms of what they're able to offer.
Yeah, I suppose there might be a bit of money on the table for that, but yeah, Jamie Jelly.
And they're also second in League One, which again makes a difference. So you can understand why there will be an attraction, but hopefully Jelly stays for the remainder of the season at least.
Yeah, I think they said at the fans forum there won't be They don't need to sell anyone, but if a crazy enough offer comes in, then obviously you need to consider it. But
Sure.
would a player want to leave Walsall at the minute?
Well, not the way things are going. It's a good place to play football, isn't it?
Everybody wants a promotion on the CV, don't they? Sort of gives you great credit. Let's just cover off some of the messages before we talk about your predictions for who's going to finish second and third. Obviously, Walsall are going to finish top, or I'm hoping so. Let's have a look. This is one from Steve Jones. What do you think of Reagan Linney at Altrincham? Do you know anything about him?
I don't know. I've not seen him personally, but I know he's supposed to be one of the top goal scorers in the National League. And I suppose you've done well dipping into non-league before, haven't you? So with Jealous, who we've just been talking about, so maybe there's some value there. But it's not one of the leagues that I study so much, so I don't want to claim to know something I don't.
That's fair enough. Working alongside Matt and Adone was a great experience for any young striker. Or also our defence has been key to success season, not just the attack. Yes, that's a good one to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a real value to some experience. I think in the modern game, lots of clubs are sort of really clamouring for these high potential players that they can sell on. And there is definitely a logic to that. But I also think sometimes you need that balance. And I think the likes of Jammer and Adama, even if they don't start as regularly in League One, they could still be a really valuable squad player. But I agree with the comment from Steve Jones there. The wing backs have been superb. I love Connor Barrett, and I think that shows the value in a really good recruitment to pick him from AFC Fylde.
Yeah, there's obviously some pressure on Liam Gordon with people coming for him now.
Well, do you know what? I love that how they kind of complement him. You have Connor Barrett, who seems to just glide with the ball, but then when he needs that burst of acceleration, he can do it, and he provides such a lovely threat on the outside. And yet what you get with Liam Gordon is sort of cutting inside and combining with the midfielders, and then you've got somebody else sort of overloading the flank. Normally Taylor Allen, isn't it? And that creates a real balance there. So I really like the wing backs, and hopefully you can keep them for League One, because they're among your most important players. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree there. Some stats from the MK Dons game from Aussie. 25 shots on goal. That's a goal every 5.8 passes. Dispossessed of the ball just 5 times in the game. That's right. A superb stat. Do
you think it'll suit you, Simon, that you're not overly obsessed while you're a good footballing side? You're not overly obsessed with possession. Do you think that's going to help you going into League One, where you are going to have less of the ball?
Well, yeah, we don't depend on a possession game, so that's. I think Walsall are third in the league for missed chances. Which suggests we should score more. I like that one. Comment there, he thinks Ronan Mayer's not good enough, but I don't know whether I agree with that really. But
I think he's slightly a victim of circumstances and systems and things like that. I think he's a big talent, and I think I expect he's gonna show that in the next couple of years, whether that's at Walsall or maybe more likely elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where if Walsall let him go, we'd then say, well, why did we let him go?
Yeah, sure.
It's one of those, isn't it? Leave him at Drogheda. That's what they're saying about Douglas James Taylor. And Dan Azar is concerned. We must get a striker in. It's a must. But I think we need to be patient. I think there's still another 10 days or 12 days, I think, to the end of the transfer window. There's time. We're not sort of into the last knock-ins. But I think in some respects, if Walsall went into the rest of the season with the squad as it is, I think we'd still be okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could definitely do with another striker or two, but yeah, I think you've put yourselves in a great position because I mean, if we look at the maths of it, let's say 80 points is required for automatic promotion. Might be
Yeah.
higher than that, it might be lower, but I don't think that's too unfair. At the moment, that would mean Walsall need 22 points from their remaining 21 games, which I think is probably quite a reasonable expectation for Walsall to tick off that, considering that you've got
Yeah, it's better than 7
58
wins. Better
points
than the
from
7 wins, I think. Yeah. Better
yeah,
than the 7
exactly.
wins from the last 21 games.
Yeah, I think that's doable.
I'd rather be in that position than any other.
Yes, certainly.
Can we? One of the players, Walsall bought 2 players in so far in the transfer window. Alechi, Ahui. I don't know how to pronounce his name very well, so I apologise for that. Did very well as a wing back for Drogheda last season. Was man of the match in the final and the FA Ireland final, cup final. So a very good talent. Walsall have signed him, but he's staying with Drogheda for the time being. So that's a potential for bringing in. Nathan Asimwe is a player from Charlton who can play left or right wing back. So it's good to have that level of cover.
Yeah.
Because for Conor Barrett and Liam Gordon, we haven't got that much cover there other than Evan Weir, but Evan Weir is perhaps more suited to left wing back. What do you know about Nathan Asimwe?
Yeah, well, I was able to kind of refer back to a conversation on Twitter I'd had with a Charlton fan called Marcus Hua, so I asked him about Nathan Asimwe. He said he's a solid young fullback, still learning positionally, so will occasionally get caught out. Think a League Two side looking for someone to play in a back 4 week in, week out would be a good move. Good going forward without really having a killer final ball yet, but that will come. So this was, by the way, from May. So whether something's changed for Nathan Asimwe that's meant that Walsall feel like he could play as a wing back. But I'm also wondering whether they think he could do a similar job to somebody like Taylor Allen, for instance, and play as an outside centre half. Because I'm wondering about that possibility as well. Sort of hearing Marcus's comments there, so slightly out of keeping, saying someone playing a back 4 when Walsall very obviously play with wing backs. But I've seen it. I think I've got plenty of trust in the recruitment policy that they can find the right players. So hopefully they've got that in.
From the conversation Walsall had with him when he signed, he talked about his strength and agility. He's sort of a very athletic player, can sort of power up and down the wings. And he said himself that he feels he's very good defensively, but going forward, his final ball is something that he needs to work on. But I think to protect the likes of Liam Gordon and Conor Barrett, perhaps in the last 10, 15 minutes of a game, bringing on someone like him to sort of keep the ship steady and not sort of wear out our current fullbacks, current wing backs, is probably a good way to go. Any players that you think Walsall should be looking at?
Great question. Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard to replace Nathan Lowe, Simon, in terms of, because I think you can easily find strikers that have Lowe's ability to run in behind. Conversely, you can easily find strikers who have Lowe's ability to drop in and link play, and you can probably easily find strikers who are good finishers. But to find a striker who has all 3 of those qualities is a real ask. So I think it's probably fair to assume that you're going to have to maybe look for those qualities across 2 strikers rather than 1. So that would be my thinking in terms of the next 10 days.
It's funny. I said something similar to that, actually. I think we have Josh Gordon, who's good at pressing and chasing and reasonably good in the air. And then we've got Albert Adama, who's got very good quick footwork and very smart holding the ball up. And then we've got DJ, who's a really good finisher. And of course, Nathan Lowe was all 3 of those. So, I quite agree. So that's a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you definitely in the Walsall to be champions camp at the minute?
I am, yeah. I think you're a class above everyone. I think every team from Crewe Alexandra in second to I draw the line at MK Dons in 12th. All of them have flaws of different kinds, and I don't think any of them put together a run that's going to be strong enough to usurp the gap to Walsall. So, and I think the fact that, certainly in terms of automatic promotion, I think you've put yourselves in a really outstanding position. And I know Grant McCann at Doncaster feels like they can still catch you, but I think that's going to be a huge ask at the moment with the number of games sort of left. So I think you're going to win the league.
The Salford were going very well. I was surprised they slipped up on Saturday. Salford got a good momentum, haven't they? Are they going to head for second or third, do you think?
No, I think they're going to be quite streaky, actually. I'm not sure I'm convinced that they're going to stay in the race. I think for me, I would go with Notts County finishing second and Doncaster finishing third. And then in terms of the playoffs, who knows? Because it's already such a chaotic promotion race outside from Walsall, because you've got Bradford City in 8th, right, outside the playoffs, and they're only 3 points off third place Port Vale with a game in hand. So it just shows you how sort of unpredictable the promotion race is. And it's a bit like that meme of a fight going on in a fish and chip shop, and somebody, Walsall or the other guy kind of quietly looking on from the outside, because you've put yourselves in a brilliant position, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Somebody made a comment, and it was I think Crewe was second, and it was like they were nearer to 12th than they were to first points wise, which is absolutely ridiculous. What do you think of Chesterfield? Are they gonna get into the playoffs, you think?
Possibly playoffs. I don't think they'll get autos. I think Chesterfield are a team where they've got some really strong players in certain areas. But even there, they've lost Dylan Markande on loan from Blackburn Rovers. He's now gone to Leyton Orient. So I think that's going to be a bit of a loss. I think they're going to need a good final 10 days for January window to get into the top 7. So I would say Chesterfield playoffs, but maybe might miss out on promotion this year.
I thought Wimbledon.
Wimbledon are a very solid, consistent team, a little bit like Crewe Alexandra. These are teams that don't lose many games, that sort of tick over points quite nicely. I think Wimbledon will do that. I think they're very solid defensively, even missing some key players. So it wouldn't surprise me if they finished in the playoffs, and maybe even the upper part of the playoffs. But I would go with Notts County and Doncaster for my top 3, because I think they're going to find some form in the second half of the season.
Local rivals, Port Vale, are they going to fall away and not make playoffs? What do you reckon?
I think Port Vale I don't think they're good enough as a collective to finish in the top 3, but I think their squad's too strong for them to miss out on the top 7. So I think Port Vale get playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, jolly good. That has been fantastic. I think we've covered off most of the comments. Oh, hang on, let's have a look. If we beat Bradford without them to Fleetwood on Tuesday, who are the last team to beat us, get your bets ready. Oh. Bradford, how are they going to respond to losing Cook? I know they've got Michael Mellon, which is a player we also were looking at.
Well, I was thinking losing Andy Cook to injury was going to really scupper Bradford, but they've actually now started to find ways of playing without him. It's more kind of penetrative passes down the sides for people to chase. They've now got some runners in midfield like Anthony Sarcevic and Alex Patterson, who are real athletes. Michael Mellon, I think, is a good signing. At the moment, it's Callum Kavanagh starting up top. I think they've got a lot more energy about them for different reasons, and I think that they're now very aggressive against the ball. So I'm actually a bit sweeter on Bradford than I was expecting to be, and that's kind of married up with their form. So I think, I think Bradford are going to be a problem. Are you going to? Is it Valley Parade that?
It's Valley Parade on Saturday.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think a point would be a good result there. I do. I think if you get, I think it's about avoiding defeat. If you can avoid defeat there, you've done well.
Myself and Stephen have said this, or Stephen has said this for probably the last 3 games, really, and saying we'd be happy with a point. And then we're going to be happy with a point against Tranmere, and we beat them 5.
No, you weren't happy with a point against Tranmere.
I think because of how well we've been doing and how clear we are in the league, sort of just avoiding defeat is one. But obviously, and again, MK Dons again. I was saying I had Luca on and chatting with Luca, and we would have been happy with a point in that game. The fact that Walsall won it so comfortably in the end really tells you that Walsall are on the march to League One.
Absolutely.
Nice one. Gabriel, always good to talk to you. We'll have you back on and we'll sort of get the lowdown for the running.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to it, Simon. And the Saddlers.
Cheers, matey. Nice one. See you soon. Cheers.
See you soon.
Walsall Fan TV, the joy and now